Welcome to Half a Point, the podcast that went 8-2 against the spread last week. You went 4-1, I went 4-1. It was a glorious week. The public got hammered, which is what we've been saying for a couple of weeks now. Finally, we had a couple of upsets, but we'll get into it. We'll get into all that was round six and then give our best five bets for round seven against the spread. To help me break it down, I am joined by my co-host, Carlton, superfan. Cuss, mate, huge week for us. How you feeling?
Yeah, it's good. Much needed week for us.
Yeah.
Long overdue as well. The underdogs. So yeah, got to be happy about that.
Yeah, huge week. If you're new to the channel, please leave a like on this video and subscribe if you want winners. We only provide winners here. So subscribe if you want winners. And we're also active on TikTok, on X, and also on Instagram. I think we're on 99 followers. So if you're listening and you're not following our Insta page, give us a follow, and be that 100th follower. Yeah, we'll be well on our way there. And also a reminder to please gamble responsibly. All right, cast round six. It was a good round of footy. We started off with Brisbane versus Collingwood. Collingwood covering and upsetting, just like we called here at half a point. They end up blowing them out by 52 points. That number was scary, but they're the ones that you just have to hold your breath and go for. Just got to trust the numbers there. And this is one of the cases where it panned out well for us. Yeah, Collingwood now flag favourites, as we sort of should be. Personally, as a Collingwood fan, I'm a bit iffy about it. Like you want to peak at the right time. A lot of the times when you're a flag favourite this early in the season, it doesn't really bode well in terms of actually getting the premiership. But we what we want to do is we want to bank the wins nice and early. So pretty glad off to a good start after the bad opening round. But yeah, we get the cover and win there. North Melbourne Carlton.
Yeah, finally another win for Carlton. So that's two for the year. Yeah, did well to run away with it at the end as well. But yeah, like I said, they did well in the second half. But I just want to see that against a good team, not the shit house like North Melbourne and West Coast. So yeah.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks covering his favourite, so there's something to that, I guess. West Coast Essendon, again, we're both on West Coast plus the points here. They should have won this game, but the plus 26 and a half wasn't really in doubt. I was a little bit nervous in the fourth quarter when Essendon were up by 12. Like we could have got backdoored like we did in Gather Round a couple of times.
Yeah.
So a few mental scars from there, but no, West Coast hold on to cover there. So yeah, not much of a sweat there. But the next one, Melbourne Fremantle, wasn't a sweat at all.
Yeah, mate, we both called it pretty well. Melbourne with the outright win, so it was an easy one for us there,
Yeah.
against Freo.
Yeah, finally Melbourne cover. Finally the market catches up. So yeah, we said well, one of these weeks will happen, and luckily it happened on a week where there were a bunch of upsets. So
Yeah.
yeah, good for us there. Adelaide GWS 3.5, I guess, was never really in too much danger. So I'm pretty happy with that one. With these low scoring sort of weather affected games, you generally speaking want to jump on the dog there. Obviously we make these picks pretty early in the week, so we didn't really have an accurate weather forecast. But at the end of the day, I still would have been pretty happy with that spot for Adelaide and panned out that way as well. So yeah, Adelaide covered there. Richmond, Gold Coast, mate. You called this perfectly.
Oh yeah, Richmond, how good was that? They're definitely like okay, they might be a bad team, but they'll just surprise you.
They're not a
Uh,
bad team. They're not a bad
yeah,
team, I'd say. They're like the best bad team you can possibly ask for,
yeah.
especially as guys who we like to back bad teams. Now, this Richmond team is the team you just want to back because, like, yes, they're bad. Yep, they're gonna lay a few eggs here and there. But mate, when you have a good spot for them, and you're quite confidently jumping on them because you know they're gonna give it 110% every week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think the Suns are pretenders? You put it on the agenda last week. You said I'm not
Yeah,
sold on this Suns team, and I said, well, I'm sold on them. So yeah, what do you think they're
I
pretenders?
don't know. I feel like even in previous years we've seen how they can sort of peak way too early in the season. and then just drop off like halfway through. We're not even here halfway through the season, and they've lost to
Mm.
a team that was expected to be the worst. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know about that guaranteed Richmond wooden spoon anymore. I mean,
Mm,
we'll see about that.
yeah.
Sydney, Port Adelaide. Yeah, I was telling Cuss before we jumped on here that Sydney was a dead bet. It was dead on arrival, really. Port, no sweat at all. Um, yeah, pretty bad pick from me. A really good read from you. You pretty much caught it perfectly last week. Um, yeah, man. Like, I, I'm, I know I lost that one, but I'm gonna take a little bit of a victory up here when I did say that Sydney will miss the eight, and you did say that Sydney will make it the four. So, congratulations, 1-0 on this game, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole season. I've called this. I said that Sydney were frauds. So yeah, I know.
I
Well done. Yeah,
I switched up quick, eh?
yeah, yeah.
Within like
Hey,
two rounds.
new information. New information. You got to pivot.
Yeah, yeah.
Western Bulldogs St Kilda not very good for you.
Yikes, terrible pick from me. I sort of said it last week as well. When you told me Bont was going to be back, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And he just brings a lot of energy to the team. So yeah, tough.
Yeah. Tough. Ross Lyon as a dog, forced to 2 and 3 at ATS this year, so we just keep an eye on it. But yeah, not the worst pick, as we say. You
Yeah.
just got to back the numbers. Cats, Hawks, what a game it was. Hawks end up covering in a small, as short favorites in a close game, just like the Western Bulldogs Carlton game. I said that was a safe feel, and the exact same thing panned out. So, as I said, like I got the Cats as dogs, so I was a lot more comfortable watching it. You would have been a little bit nervous, if you were laying the 2.5 with them, when they were only up by one there, late in the fourth. But yeah, another super game. Hawks drop a couple in a row. We said that the market will catch up to them now. They're 0-3 ATS
Mm,
in the last few games, I think. Definitely on to the last two, losing outright. So yeah, we said this Hawthorn team looked like a juggernaut at the start of the season, but the market's sort of catching up to them now, which is exactly what we expected. All right, mate. So you went 4-1 and I went 4-1. So I moved to 16 and 14, back above 500. So I'm happy. You still got a little bit of work to do. You're 14 and 16, but
yeah.
desperately needed that week. Favorites go 4 and 5 ATS. So finally a losing week, but 4 and 5 turns around 500. So that's what we sort of expect every week, which is sort of good if that's what we're expecting every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to round six or round seven. Is it round seven?
Seven, round seven.
Round
Yep.
seven, my bad. So moving on to round seven here. Opening with Melbourne versus Richmond, Thursday night game at the MCG. Last time they played, Melbourne were 28.5 point favorites and ended up winning by 43. I think that was last year when they were both coming off a bye on the same week. And yeah, Melbourne just ended up winning and covering as favorites. Give me Melbourne minus 24.5. Oh my God. And give me Melbourne to blow out the Tigers here. This game's not going to be close. This is a pick. This pick goes against everything I say. I'm all about underdogs. I'm all about jumping on like Thursday night dogs is a trend. Who the hell am I to be 24.5 point favorites against anyone? Like this just goes against all of my philosophy. So if you don't want to follow this pick, completely understandable if you listen to everything else I say. But I said last week, I think this Melbourne team has a pulse. I think they bank a big win here against the Tigers, coming up a huge win against the Sun, young team. They're gonna come back down to earth. I feel like this is a pretty good number in the 20s against Richmond. Yeah, Melbourne found something offensively last week. Like they can score, even though their forward line is quite poor, with a few no names, but yeah, I just think they get off to a hot start, and yeah, I don't think this game's close. I think they blow them out. Um, what do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I do like the pick. I was, thinking about it. Look, both teams had big wins last week, but you sort of look at it like who, like which one meant more. I think the Richmond one was a lot more. They left it
Mm.
all out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Melbourne do cover this line, but I'm just not as brave as you, man. I'm not as brave as you. So
Mate,
I've stayed away from this one.
I could come back next week and be like, what the hell are you doing, mate? Going with Melbourne as 24.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, as I said, like if you don't want to jump on this, completely understandable. I'm gonna jump on it. I'm trying to buy a cheap one here. Really, I am. But yeah, I bet it in the low 20s or the low 20s early in the week. So it's come up to 24.5. So a little bit of money on Melbourne, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Anzac Day blockbuster, Collingwood versus Essendon. Friday afternoon game at the MCG. Last time they played Collingwood were 9.5 point favourites later on last year. And Essendon ended up winning that game by 12 points. Essendon covered both times last year. This time around, Collingwood are 24.5 point favourites. Where are you going with this one?
Look, I think a game like this where it means a lot, it's also Collingwood versus Essendon. It's always just going to be a good contest. So for that reason, I'm jumping on Essendon here. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty confident with this one. But yeah, I just think that it's time like Essendon as well covered twice last year, like you said. But I think it's time for them to sort of bounce back a little bit, humble Collingwood a little bit. So yeah, what about you?
Stay away from me,
Yeah,
actually. I get the Essendon pick. Um, it would be yes no nothing, I guess. Like it sort of aligns with all our philosophies with, close game, all that. But the number's a little bit fishy. 24.5 is a pretty big number.
yeah,
I think like on paper we probably should be like 4 goal favorites against the Essendon. Um, I don't know. We've seen a couple of these spots this season, and the favorites have covered. Like I'm thinking the Carlton, Hawthorn, Carlton, Collingwood. Maybe it's just a Carlton thing. I don't know. But yeah, we've jumped on these spots early on this season, so I'm just gonna hold on this one, hold on these kinds of on this trend for the year.
yeah.
It was Essendon at the start of the week for me, but then I subbed it out for a different pick, which I'll get to later on, which I love. But yeah, I don't hate the pick. So philosophically, I don't hate it. So yeah, very nice. Moving on to Freo versus Adelaide, Friday night game. So on Anzac Day as well at Optus. Last time we played Freo were 10.5 point favorites at Optus and ended up winning by 35 points. This time around, Freo are 2.5 point favorites. We're going back to the well. Give me the Crows plus 2.5 and give me Adelaide to blow out Freo here. This game's not going to be close. This is, mate. Fremantle, Fremantle are the biggest frauds, man. Like I'm expecting this number to close as Fremantle getting points. Adelaide should close as favourites. We said last week, man, the Fremantle are the biggest frauds in the league. The market's slowly catching up to it. I feel like we're getting a little bit of value here. If you're getting points with Adelaide, like I'd be hammering it. It's not a huge. I wouldn't say it's a pros Joe's game. Like there'll be a lot of the public on Adelaide as well, so it might be a public dog this week. But I'll jump on with them. Like I love Adelaide here. They're just a significantly better side, catching points. And they're only dogs because they're away from home. If it goes to Fremantle plus the points out of principle, I probably wouldn't, but I've bet alternative lines for Adelaide minus like 17, 18.5 here. So yeah, give me Adelaide plus 2.5 here. What do you think?
Stay away from me. I like the pick though. Once again, it's sort of just like I'm not brave enough to go in that direction.
Come on.
But yeah, I do it. Like if I see Fremantle get absolutely hammered here, yeah, I'm absolutely on the fraud mantle train. But yeah, it's just 1 week too early for me.
Mate, we are the biggest frauds, man. They lost to Melbourne. But anyway, we'll see.
Mate, covering all these spreads makes me kind of hungry.
Hmm. Should we order something from the cake sorority?
Ah, yes, the cake sorority, where every cake is a slice of sisterhood or brotherhood.
Whether you're celebrating a birthday, anniversary, or a glorious cover, the cake sorority has a perfect treat for every occasion.
Shoot them a message on Insta at the cake sorority and use the code half a point for 10% off your next order.
That's code half a point for 10% off your next order. Your spread is covered with the cake sorority.
Moving on to St Kilda versus Brisbane, Saturday afternoon game at Marvel. Last time they played Brisbane were 10.5 point favorites at Marvel and won by 85. I was on St Kilda game, obviously, and they got blown out. Um, yeah, this time around, St Kilda are 14.5 point dogs. Where are you going with this one?
Look, I've gone with St Kilda one more time. Um, And yeah, look, I still like the pick, but I think I just give it one more week, see how it is. Sort of like Melbourne all over again.
Mm.
Just gonna give it one more go. They're playing at home. So yeah, just gotta hope and pray with this one. Need a bit of a bounce back as well from last week. They got ripped apart, so definitely need a bit of a bounce back here.
Yeah, give me St Kilda plus 14.5 and give me St Kilda to cause the upset and beat Brisbane straight up here, mate. I love this St Kilda pick. Just like you said, bounce back spot from last week. You're getting Ross Lyon as a dog. I know he's sub 500 this year, but this is just a classic spot. You got to take him. This Western Bulldogs team just always like manages a way to beat up on St Kilda. I'm not going to worry too much about this bat. St Kilda, as we saw, really well coached. That Geelong win is looking more and more impressive every week, and even the Port Adelaide one on the road, considering what Port have done the last couple of weeks. So, um, yeah, Brisbane, I feel like the market's still catching up to them a little bit. They're just going to go, they're going through a little bit of a lull at the moment. That's fine. If they do win, like I'm not ruling that out, obviously. I do still do expect St Kilda to cover here. So yeah, give me St Kilda plus 14.5. Absolutely love this one. Moving on to Port Adelaide versus North Melbourne Saturday afternoon at Adelaide Oval. Last time they played Port Adelaide were 45.5 point favorites and ended up winning by 59. This time around, Port Adelaide are 38.5 point favorites. Stay away from me, but I'm definitely leaning North Melbourne here. It almost made my five for Melbourne. But yeah, I didn't. Port coming off a couple of big wins on the road, coming back home. They are not great ATS as favourites at home this year. I'm thinking of the St Kilda one, and there were Dogs versus Hawthorn, I guess. So I guess just 0-1. But yeah, this North Melbourne team have coming off a couple of disappointing performances. We said that last week as well, though. But yeah, they laid another egg. So. I just think it's a pretty good number. Like you were catching a similar number versus Adelaide, and I think Adelaide are a significant better side than Port Adelaide. So, yeah, I'd lean North Melbourne. What do you think?
Yeah, it's also another stay away from me, but I
Mm,
do like the North Melbourne pick. You said it perfectly. Two big wins for Port Adelaide coming back home might just they might relax a little bit. North Melbourne, the way I see the game going is North Melbourne keep it close and then just get a bit blown out in the last quarter.
yeah,
Um, that's how I see it. So it's a bit of a stay away from me.
yeah. Backdoor covers always on versus North Melbourne, so very
Yeah.
fair to stay away from that. Moving on to the Giants versus the Dogs. Saturday night game at Manuka. Last time they played, the Western Bulldogs were 12.5 point favorites. I think it was around 24 and they ended up winning by 37. This time around, the Giants are 11.5 point favorites. Where are you going with this one?
Give me Bulldogs at plus 11 and a half. Look, I think it's a two-goal game either way. I don't
Well,
see
that's not good if it's 2 goals to the Giants.
what even oh well, you know what I mean, you know.
Yeah, 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 I know.
But like I think Bulldogs would be able to cover this line regardless. Um, they might not win it, and I think it'll be a really close game. But yeah, I think they cover here.
Give me the Western Bulldogs plus 11.5 and give me the Western Bulldogs to beat the Giants straight up. Yeah, absolutely love it again, mate. We're in sync here again. Huge pros Joe's game. Pros on the Bulldogs here. Yeah, like this Western Bulldogs team matches up really well against the Giants historically. Um, I still think they're underrated, man. Like I said
Yeah.
last week, Adelaide's my partner. Western Bulldogs are my crush, and that only grew watching them beat up on the Saints. Mate, like this Western Bulldogs team is just so I don't know how they're still so underrated. Um, yeah, the Giants are a really good team still. I still believe in them. Premiership odds, all that. I just feel like this isn't a great number or a great spot for them. Yeah, Bulldogs catching points. They've been really good as underdogs historically. So yeah, give me the Western Bulldogs to cause the upset here. We're going with a couple upsets here. So yeah, love it. Moving on to
Yep.
Gold Coast versus Sydney. Sunday afternoon game at People's First. Um, last time they played, City were 19.5 point favorites at home and ended up winning by 53. This time around, Gold Coast are 14.5 point favorites. Stay away from me. I'd leave Gold Coast actually, just because I think Sydney are frauds, as I said, and I don't think Gold Coast are, even though you might think they're still frauds. Like I think Gold Coast is legit. I think I've seen enough for even though they just lost to Richmond. But yeah, I don't know, just watching them, just eye test stuff, like no real numbers, just eye test. I just feel like they're legit. But yeah, they could just be beating up on bad teams all along.
Yeah.
Um, but I think Sydney's a bad team. So I'd lean Gold Coast, but the reason why I'm not going to go for it, it's just I kind of the number it's too fishy. What do you think?
Another stay away from me. Two frauds playing. Who's the bigger fraud? I think it's Sydney.
Mate,
So
we've had a couple fraud matchups. So Sydney Port and the dog won, and then Fremantle Sydney, and then Sydney won, who were the underdog. So I
yeah.
guess you'd lean Sydney this one. I just can't do it though. Like
Nah,
Sydney,
yeah, no, if I had to pick, it would probably be Gold Coast.
yeah.
But nah, too risky of a pick for
Yeah.
me.
Sydney's a professional side. Like you could say like they butchered the ball last week and they should have ended up at least winning, even though they didn't cover. But
Yeah.
yeah, pretty hard to get a read on this Sydney team. I've been pretty bad picking Sydney games this year, so that's why I'm staying away from
Mm,
that one.
yeah.
Moving on to Carlton versus Geelong Sunday 3:20 game at the MCG. Last time they played Carlton, 8.5 point favorites, and ended up blowing them out by 63 points. This time around, Carlton are 10.5 point dogs. Where are you going with this one?
Look, give me Carlton plus 10.5, but I don't think we're gonna win. I think gonna be one of those close games that, in the last dying minutes we just give it up and Geelong get the winning points. But yeah, I'm jumping on Carlton again. I know I said I wasn't going to, but but that was as a favorite, so I've changed it up here. I'm jumping on Carlton as a dog.
Give me Carlton plus 10.5 and give me Carlton to blow out the Cats.
Oh well,
I don't think it's going to be close, man. I think Carlton come away with a huge win here. Such a terrible, terrible, terrible spot for the Cats. It's such a classic letdown spot for the Cats here. Carlton, I feel like Carlton have something to prove. I feel like this is the week where after this week, everyone's going to be like, oh, Carlton a chance, like to make finals and all that chatter will start. This is like the defining week for Carlton. They're sneaking up on everyone's radar. No one's giving them any credit for the two wins, which I understand because they're against the poor opposition. But you just have to believe in this Carlton team, really,
yeah.
which I do. So, yeah, I feel like they're playing really good footy right now. Geelong coming off a couple huge wins, huge emotional wins. Classic letdown spot for the Cats. It's at the MCG. It's not even at GMHB or anything. So, really great spot for the Blues. Yeah, as in when I say I don't think it'll be close, I think they win by 20 points here.
Mm.
Geelong are probably too good, not to like get blown out, but we've seen crazier things than a blowout happening. So yeah, give me Carlton to win and to win big here. My favorite pick of the week. Moving on to Hawthorn versus West Coast, Sunday afternoon game at Marvel. Last time they played, Hawthorn were 10.5 point favorites only, but won by 61 at Optus. I think it was a West Coast that game actually.
Mm.
And this time around, Hawthorn are 55.5 point favorites. Stay away from me. West Coast or nothing, just because I feel like the market's still catching up to Hawthorn. Really big number. West Coast showed signs last week. They don't have to play a great game. They just need to cover. What do you think?
Yep, I've jumped on West Coast here.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
jumping on West Coast at plus 55 and a half. It's a bit ballsy. This was my fifth pick, so I was struggling with it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked what I saw last week. There was a bit of fight about them. I think, it's going to be one of those games where they do keep it close for maybe the first half and then sort of let go a little bit in the second. But yeah, hopefully they can just hold on a little bit longer and yeah, cover that line.
Yeah, again with these big dogs, you really want like a back door, so they could be down like 65 or something, and then they
Yeah,
kick like the last three goals when Hawthorn's put the foot off the pedal. So
yeah,
and you hopefully cover that number. It has come down. It was at 59, so a bit of money's coming in on West Coast. So good signs for you. But yeah, I feel like that you're on the right side there. So um,
yeah.
very nice. So. There we go. That's our round seven picks. The season's moving on quite quickly.
Hmm.
So finally, I've done it. I've gone with four dogs and a favorite. I'm on Melbourne minus 24 and a half, Adelaide plus 2.5, St Kilda plus 14 and a half, Western Bulldogs plus 11 and a half, and Carlton plus 10 and a half. Can you run us through your five?
Yep, so I'm on Essendon at plus 24 and a half. I'm on St Kilda at plus 14 and a half. Western Bulldogs at plus 11 and a half. Carlton at plus 10 and a half. And West Coast at plus 55 and a half, mate. Five dogs.
Five dogs again, mate. You're gonna have to sneak a couple of
Yeah,
favorites in here one week or
yeah, I
another.
know, I
But I
know.
can't blame you. I did the exact same thing a couple of weeks ago. Like consecutive weeks have gone with five dogs. So I
Yeah,
don't blame you there. You had a good week last week. Hopefully the dogs keep on rolling, keep on winning. Um Perfect. Final thoughts before we wrap up here.
yeah. Let's just hopefully see better week of footy. Maybe 15-meter kicks paid. Don't know how you
Yeah.
go on that one.
Yeah, umpiring is in shambles, but
Yeah,
I'm just in the boat that there's always going to be issues
yeah,
umpiring in this game. So yeah, I guess it's hardest job in the world. I guess umpiring footy games. So yeah, there's always going to be issues as well with the Australian media, mate. Like even with like the Noel Bolger thing, I was thinking like in the NFL, man, like it's like that happens like twice a week for
yeah,
like one team. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like it's so overblown, but.
yeah,
Whatever, we move on. We're here to make some picks. We're here to read the market, and we're going all right at the moment. Hopefully we have another good week. All right, Cuss, and everyone, thank you for joining. Leave a like on this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, see you later.